All right. Good evening, everyone, or good day, good afternoon, depending on when you decide to watch, just in case you watch this after the live broadcast. My name is Marcy Thomas, and I am the founder of Brown Girl Collective and also the BGC Book Club. And tonight I'm especially excited to bring on one of my favorite contemporary writers and share her latest book with you all. So, give you all a couple of moments to come on in the room, as they say. Let us know where you're joining us from as you join the room. I am coming to you from the outskirts of the ATL. So that's where I am located. And so just let us know where you're joining us from. And here in a couple moments, I'll bring up our author and we'll go ahead and get started. Okay, somebody else from Georgia. Hey, Desiree. Nice to see you. Thanks for joining us this evening. So I'm not going to belabor because I know everyone's busy on a Monday evening. I want to give you some information about our special guest for the evening. Now, according to NBC News, Tia Williams is a writer's writer with a fashionista twist. In 1997, the University of Virginia grad embarked on a career as a magazine beauty editor, working her way up through the mastheads of YM, Elle, Glamour, Lucky, Teen People, and Essence. In 2004, she pioneered the beauty blog industry with her long-running, award-winning site, Shake Your Beauty. The same year, her debut novel, The Accidental Diva, hit the shelves. Tia went on to co-write Iman's makeup memoir, The Beauty of Color, and penned two young adult novels, It Chicks and 16 Candles. In 2016, her novel, The Perfect Find, won the African American Literary Award for Best Fiction. And the upcoming film adaptation, which I can't wait to see, will be showcased on Netflix, featuring Gabrielle Union in the starring role, along with many other of our faves. Tia's latest novel, the New York Times bestseller, 7 Days in June, and here it is, was released just a couple of months ago. And if all of this wasn't enough, Tia is currently an editorial director at Estee Lauder Companies. She lives in Brooklyn with her daughter, her husband, and several half-written manuscripts. So without any further delay, welcome to the room, Tia Williams.
Hi.
Hi. So glad to have you here. It is
Thank you for having me.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. As soon as I found out you had a new book coming out, and I said, let me see what I can do to get her in the room. So welcome, welcome. Well, first of all, I just want to congratulate you on the success, your success of the book. I know it was picked up by, several book clubs and, as I said, New York Times bestseller. So that's pretty awesome.
Oh my gosh. This summer has been such a whirlwind. It's like, it's everything that you dream of happening, when you're an author, when you have a book coming out, like just that it's been received so well. People seem to really love it and it's resonating with audiences. So I'm just over the moon.
All right. And we're over the moon to have you here with us. So now, one of the things I oftentimes will ask authors about how they got into writing, and I was doing a little bit of research about you. So, obviously you worked as a magazine editor and all of that, but what made you decide to step out of that box and also become an author?
So I always knew I wanted to be a writer. Like that was all since I was 7 years old when I wrote my first book in my mom's steno pad. Peter and the Bunny, I believe it was called. I even wrote in about the author section. I was 7 years old.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I always knew I wanted to write, but I had two different avenues I wanted to go in. So I was obsessed with beauty and fashion. Mm-hmm. So I was like, okay, I'm going to definitely want to work at fashion magazines and write about beauty. But then I also knew I wanted to be a novelist too. And so because I had the kind of parents and upbringing that was very much, if you like it, I love it, follow your dreams. My parents are like, okay, if you can make this work for you, go to New York and make it happen. And so I started working at Elle magazine as a beauty assistant. And 2 years later, I wrote my first novel. So I've always been dual pathing both things. I have a day job writing either for magazines, which was what I did at the beginning of my career, and now I'm working at Estee Lauder brands. Um, and then also writing fiction on the side. Yeah. So I've never really made a choice between one or the other.
Well, that's good. That's good that you were able to get into something that you truly enjoy, because there's so many of us who may have a desire to do a thing and can't really, pull that together. So it's a blessing that you've been able to be in both worlds. And we appreciate it because it's great to read your books.
Yay! Yeah, believe me, I know how lucky I am that I get to do what I truly, truly love, and that I've always known that I was sort of like born for. So yeah, it's a good thing.
So with that being said, we're going to go ahead and get into the new book, 7 Days in June.
Yes.
So, wow, it was a really great story. As I mentioned to you before we came on, my mom read it and her best friend read it. So,
Oh my gosh.
yes, we have people of all ages and stages of life getting into this story, which is really, was a really powerful story. So what made you want to write a story about basically two people who come together in quite a dramatic way and then separate and then come back together?
Well, I got the idea one Saturday evening at home alone. And I was watching Romeo and Juliet, the one with Leonardo DiCaprio and Claire Danes,
Okay.
which is one of my comfort movies. I've seen it 2,000 times, but for some reason, this time, when I got to the end and Romeo and Juliet obviously die, I was like, what if they didn't die?
Hmm.
Like what if these two like love struck teenagers, dramatic teenagers, have this moment and then they go their separate ways? What if when they ran into each other again later as like grown-ups, what if they felt the same? What
Hmm.
happens then? You always creative writing professors always say you should start a book with a question that you can answer. And so my big question was, do soulmates have an expiration date?
Hmm.
So like if Romeo and Juliet met 15 years later, like would their true love have expired? And
Right.
so I started from that point. I love iconic love stories. I love Black iconic love stories. I don't feel like we have enough. So I wanted to write one. And also the whole idea of second chance romance, that romance trope of, we were together once before and then will it happen now? I'm always interested in that too.
Yes, and it was very good because there are some people that I know who have had that experience of being with
Mm-hmm.
someone or meeting someone at a certain stage and going apart or being apart for whatever reason and then coming back together. So it was
Yeah,
good to see that. And someone is saying, "Good question. Yeah, timing is everything." Absolutely,
it
absolutely,
is. It is.
absolutely,
And I
absolutely.
think we all have that person or a few people where we're like, that's the one who got away, or I wonder what he's doing, or like, where is she at? So yeah, it's a relatable concept, I think.
Right, and actually knowing that you were using Romeo and Juliet as kind of an inspiration, so to speak, that makes sense because in the case of these two characters, they're not just your regular happy-go-lucky teens. They are some teens that are dealing with some very
Yeah.
serious, situations in their lives. So that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
So, we're going to start with ladies first. So, starting with Genevieve.
Genevieve.
I had to figure out how to say that.
You got it.
Starting with Genevieve, aka Eva.
Mm-hmm.
Her story is very interesting because there's several things going on with her. Just being a young lady who has moved around a lot.
Mm-hmm.
The only child of a single mom who has an interesting way of making her way through life.
Mm-hmm.
And then not only that, the fact that she's dealing with a chronic illness.
Yes.
So that there are a lot of things going on with her, and as I was doing my research, I found out there is a piece of that that actually resonates with your own personal story.
Yes. So there's a couple of pieces. It's interesting because Eva and I, like who we are, or we're very different. Like I didn't have her traumatic childhood.
Mm-hmm.
Um, that piece of it is totally different. But the skeleton of her character is me. So when I was writing this book, I was also a Black writer, single mother of a 12-year-old daughter, living in Park Slope, Brooklyn with a Creole mom
Oh my,
and chronic daily migraine. So all of those things
that's you.
that's
Okay.
me.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. My daughter was like 9 when I started writing it, but she's 12 now, which is funny because Audrey is 12. And I was inspired by her to write that character. But yeah, so I have chronic intractable migraines, and what that means is they're really uncurable. So I wake up in pain every day, and the rest of the day is sort of ruled by managing that pain. And you know, anyone with chronic pain, whether you're, a migraine sufferer, you have fibromyalgia, you have arthritis, lupus, anything like that, you know that you can feel like you are pain with a person attached.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's the biggest thing in your world. It's bigger than your relationships. It's bigger than your job. It's, you're confronted with it at every second, and it changes the way you relate to people. It changes the way you relate to the world. It's very isolating. You feel like a weirdo. You smell things that aren't there. You see things that aren't there. You're in this like prison of agony, and it's a strange place to be. And so I've always wanted to write about it, but I happen to write in a genre that's very,
Right.
fun and sparkly and
Yes. Right.
sexy, and it's like, where will this ever fit in? And I never could figure out how to make it work in a book, But when I started writing Eva, I just felt like, you know what? Why? It was intentional to make her have this invisible disease, because I wanted to show that we're just as worthy as love and good times and being treated well and valued as anyone else. And it was at a time where I was particularly sick. And so I wasn't feeling very lovable.
Mm-hmm.
And so it helped me to write about this character who was going through the same things I was, and figuring out how to live her best life. I was like, well, if Eva can do this and make it happen and like juggle a kid and this man and this pain at the same time, then maybe I can. And the funny thing is, I was very single when I started writing this book, and then halfway through, I swiped right on my now
Uh-oh.
husband. So
Uh-oh.
I do feel there's something to be said for manifestation.
All right now. Okay, Mom, are you listening to that? Because my mother is very like anti, online dating. So there's
It
been a
works.
couple people. So Mom, don't get mad.
It works.
All right, we have a comment here from Mel. Basically, she's saying invisible disabilities don't get enough attention because people look at you and think you're fine and don't give you the same grace. Yeah.
It's absolutely true, Mel. It's like, if you're not bleeding, you're not in a wheelchair, you're not limping, you don't have a cast,
Mm-hmm.
and you can act no, quote unquote normal. It's really hard for people to see that you're struggling. And so, you don't get the same grace. You can get it's an ableist world. And so people expect you to behave like a well person when you're not, and stuff.
Mel also said, Tia, write one for me, LOL.
You have to write it. That's the thing about manifestation. It has to come from you.
Someone else, and we can talk more about this a little later, but just to bookmark this comment so I don't lose it. Someone's asking about what about a story about season love, 40, 50, 60 plus? Like, okay.
Oh, well, my last novel, The Perfect Find, is about
Yes.
a 40-year-old woman who goes to work at this, very millennial digital fashion publication and meets a guy half her age, a coworker, and they have like a blazing romance. So
Yeah, and
I've
sidebar, they
definitely,
show up in this book too. I was like, oh,
and they show up
they
in
do
this
show up in
book.
this book.
Yeah. I love to bring characters back.
Right, right. But before we get too far ahead of ourselves, of course, we know that 40th season, I'm a few years out. That's funny.
So am I now. I mean, I'm going to be 46 this month. So, yeah.
Right. Now, of course, we've talked about Eva and some of the things that she was going through. But then also we have Shane, who has quite an interesting story as well as being someone
Hmm.
who was an orphan, you know.
Yeah.
So, and all of the things that went along with that being in and out of the system. So was there a particular situation or person that you knew that was an inspiration for him, or is this just, a story that came to you just creatively?
Yeah. It's funny. Shane actually came from an article I read years ago. Like, I was inspired. I don't remember if it was in the New Yorker or New York Magazine. It was one of the New Yorks. And, or Esquire. It was all about the um, school to prison pipeline.
Mm-hmm.
And which those things where these concepts where like that it's real and that this is something that exists, but it hasn't been like laid out for you in a perfect package that now you have a phrase to describe it, you have
Mm-hmm.
the facts to back it up, the data. So it just, my mind was blown when I read about this and how systematic it was. This is the years before Ava DuVernay's 13 doc.
Right.
So this was like such an education for me to read about. It's just so insidious, what's been done to our Black boys. But so I was just finishing up one of my YA novels at the time, and I just thought to myself, oh, I want to like shed a light on this somehow, like, write a character that sort of came from this world and figured out how to make it out for better or worse. And so that's where he came from. And then I just started doing a lot of research and reading a lot of first person essays and testimonials, listening to podcasts and talking to psychologists. And then he was just sort of born. And then, he's a sort of a collection of every grumpy, sexy writer guy that I've ever known. Like, misanthropic, I don't want to talk to anyone. Like, I just want to like make my art and travel, not be tied down, kind of a guy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, that makes a lot of sense that, he's kind of a combination of a lot of people. Now, of
Mm-hmm.
course, the thing that really sets this all off is when they meet in school
Yeah.
as seniors in high school, and they just have this automatic connection,
Mm-hmm.
which I thought was really great because sometimes, of course, he's a little apprehensive at first, like, why
Yeah,
is
because
this girl
he's
coming to talk to me?
right.
But
He's pretty
once
antisocial.
yes,
He
very
doesn't really
antisocial.
doesn't trust people,
Right,
which
right,
isn't surprising.
right, which is, understandable considering his background. But once he and Eva make that connection, it's like they just, it's a strong connection. It's like really within the first day.
Yeah.
Meeting
Yeah.
each other, and they're like kindred spirits, really.
Hmm. That was the first scene I wrote when they met on the bleachers. I was on lunch break at work, and I was just like, um, what could be a really dramatic, instant sort of way they could meet, and something about when they're talking on the bleachers, and then the bell rings and everybody goes in, and they're still sitting there, just like
Mm-hmm.
sort of wrapped up in each other. I love that.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, absolutely. And I like the fact that, what's that the thing of, you meet a person, or people can be your soulmates, and there's different types of soulmates. And
Mm-hmm.
at this point, even in the midst of all that was going on, they found each other and almost instantly connected as soulmates. So
Yes. And I do believe in soulmates. It's like, but it doesn't have to just be a love thing. It could be my husband. It could be your dog. It could be your best friend. It could be your grandma. I keep getting asked, like, do you really believe that soulmates are real? And I think we have proof of that everywhere. I mean, who hasn't met someone and had an instant thing? I mean, my second grade best friend, that's how we met. Yeah, and maybe soulmates is making it too schmaltzy. It's just there's kindred spirits that we have, and that was definitely true for the two of them.
Absolutely. So one of the things about them is, like I said, they come together, they have this strong connection. One thing, just so you know, I don't give away storylines, because I see some people have read it, some people have not. So I don't tell
Okay.
everything.
That's good to
Don't tell
know.
everything. But just enough so that people will know, and those who've read it can relate and can ask questions. And that, yes, Mel is saying your person doesn't have to be a romantic partner. We put too much on romantic partnerships. Absolutely. Absolutely. Because quite honestly, I believe that Cece is a soulmate.
Totally. Totally.
And for those who haven't, yeah, she's works in the publishing field and helps both authors. So she is, for those who haven't read it.
Yeah. I mean, she met Eva and was like instantly, okay, you're my baby sister now. Like, that's it. And I think we all have those people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, of course, they come together, and there are events that transpire that cause them to kind of run off and be together and spend these days really getting to know one another, in the midst of all the chaos around them. Of course, Shane doesn't necessarily have anybody looking for him.
Right.
Right, wherein Eva does, which also brings up
barely,
barely, that, the relationship between Eva and her mom, I found to be a very interesting one as well. She's with her mom. Her mom, has her moving around a lot and is involved in a lot of different relationships and things like that. But in many ways, Eva is the parental figure.
Yeah. And I had a couple of girlfriends growing up that kind of had at-home situations like this, where it would just blow my mind how self-reliant they had to be because they didn't have anyone taking care of them. And I grew up, it's like, oh, this is no longer appropriate to say, but it was like the Huxtables, my house. And I was so supported and so cared for. I never felt alone in the world, ever. And I certainly never felt like I had to take care of my parents. If anything, it was the opposite. Like, I didn't realize my parents had any emotional life outside of us. Like, you live for us, right? Like, it's, for your kids. So I would look at these, my friends and their situations, and be like, how do you possibly make it if your mom sucks? Because they're the ones that nurture us. They're the ones that hold us up, encourage us, all of that. And I say your mom because, I'm old enough to come from a time where sometimes dads weren't expected to do all of that. He went to work and he paid the bills, and, that was enough. So it was always like an interesting dynamic to me when a kid doesn't have that and still does very well in life. And so I just wanted to explore that sort of dynamic with Eva and her mom, and also show, Shane had no one. Eva had a very problematic mother.
Right.
It's important to their love stories because they didn't have family. when they met each other, they were like instant family.
Mm-hmm.
And they meant everything. They were all things to each other. So when it all fell apart, you know, it gives weight to Eva just sort of getting out of there, changing her name, moving to a new city, starting over, and not wanting to talk about anything before the age of 19.
Right, absolutely. And speaking of that, since we're in that vein, Eva does ultimately, there's this big event. They end up separating at the end of this big event, and they do go on about their lives. Eva goes off to Princeton, and Shane goes on, and I won't say what happens to Shane because that's part of the mystery. But he goes on, and some other things happen in his life. But they both, I'm going to backtrack a little bit. They both had a thing about writing even earlier on, because they were kind of talking about that even in that time that they spent together, about being able to put things on paper and express their thoughts and feelings. So once they do get to the point of writing, and I mean, and this isn't a giveaway because it's in
no,
they're basically, they're both authors and they're writing stories about each other. For a very long time. They're doing that until
for 15 years.
15 years until they're able to come back together. But one of the things speaking of the mother-daughter dynamic, Audrey, who I loved, and you mentioned
Audrey.
Yes, that your daughter and Audrey, there was some things there. One of the things I loved about the relationship dynamic between Eva and Audrey is that she wanted to be all of the things that maybe her mom wasn't, and making sure she had all of these opportunities and things like that. And so that I found that to be great, that a lot of times that happens. Well, one of two things usually happens. Either they end up being just like the one before them, or they decide that didn't work, I'm going to do something totally different.
Right. Like sometimes you repeat. I mean, I think that for Eva, it was very, very important that she didn't repeat these generational curses. That drove everything that she did. And it's why she never really told the truth to her daughter about where she came from and who her mom really is. And so, yeah, it's either you repeat the trauma and the curse, or you go totally in the opposite direction. And that's what Eva did.
Yeah, and I found that interesting. And also, Eva, even though the relationship she had with her mom, Lizette, she still felt that connection to her ancestors and wanted to know more about them. And one of the things was about the ring, the cameo ring. So I read something somewhere that that's a part of your story as well.
Oh, yeah. So I have a cameo ring that I don't want to say I stole from my mom, but I borrowed and just have had it in my possession for the past 30 years. But it belonged to my great-great-grandmother, Philomena. She gave it to my grandmother, Lillian, who everyone called Bebe. And Bebe gave it to my grandmother, Loretta. Grandma Loretta gave it to my mom, and I took it. But I, and it's just this beautiful heirloom, and I just feel like it's swirling with feminine ancestral magic. Like I wear it on important occasions, or like if I'm nervous, or if I need like an extra shot of something, courage or stamina or, power. And I just think it's a fabulous thing to have. I mean, what are the stories in this ring? What did my ancestors, what were they feeling when they wore it? Like what events did this ring, witness? I just think it's fascinating. So that's something that I've always wanted to write about too. Like I was, like how can I weave my ring into the story?
Well, I thought that was great as well, that, in spite of whatever happened between that mother and that daughter, there's still a connection to what came before and also what's coming behind. And I think that that's because a lot of times who we are as women is tied up in who our mothers or grandmothers or other people were, and that those things
Mm-hmm.
do get passed along to daughters if we have them. So I think it's
Definitely.
great. This is something my mom and I were talking about earlier, about just being able to know that history and kind of know where you come from. And
Yeah.
even if you don't repeat, and sometimes you don't want to repeat everything that they did, but just to have a basic understanding. And sometimes that can help you to understand your parent more, or, your aunts or whomever.
Right, right,
You
right.
understand them more when you kind of, okay, this is the line that we come through, and and
Yeah,
there's strength and power in that. So I thought that was a
definitely.
great thread to continue as well. Someone asked the question, do they know they're writing about each other? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they're aware.
they're
Definitely.
aware.
Yeah. But no one else knows. No
No
one
one
even knows that
else knows.
no one knows, no one even knows that they know each other. And they write in totally different genres. She writes vampire erotica and he writes very literary fiction. Kind of like a Colson Whitehead or
Okay.
yeah, that kind of thing. So they're not in the same circles, but they know who the books are meant for.
Absolutely, absolutely. So there is this grand event that they find out. They come back together, and they're shocked to see each other at this event because they weren't expecting. It's a place that Eva would normally wouldn't be, and Shane comes to town, but he doesn't. He's not expecting to see Eva in that environment. So they come back together, and then of course there's this great reunion.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, I just can't wait to see it on the screen
Yes.
because I had the way I write is I sort of picture the movie in my head and then I
Okay.
write what I see. So I see that scene as very like dramatic and everyone in the audience just like looking at them on this panel like what is happening? What are we witnessing?
And for those of you who don't know, that question was coming, but just since you brought that up, this film this is, see, I already said film. This book has something's going on with this book as well.
Yes, it's been optioned for a TV series.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, not a film, a TV series, which is, I mean, I totally see it because there's so many layers, you know?
That's true. That's true. It would be a lot to cover in the span of a film. So
Definitely. Yeah. I'm so excited.
absolutely. Somebody's asking, who would you like to be cast in it? I'm like, oh gosh.
So for Shane, I am so into Aldous Hodge.
Mm,
Just Google this man. He is
I
so
know who
good
he
in
is.
every, okay, you know who he is. Okay. Love
Mm-hmm.
him. Love John David Washington.
Okay.
You know, like these intense actors that you can tell there's like cerebral stuff going on, but they can
Mm-hmm.
also like laugh at themselves a little bit.
Right.
Um, and I actually really like the Duke of Marlborough from Bridgerton.
Oh, okay. Okay.
He'd be good.
Okay. Yeah, a lot of people
Yeah,
like him.
yeah, yeah. And then Eva, I'm seeing like quirky energy, like Zazie Beetz from Atlanta.
Okay.
I don't know if you watch Atlanta, but I just
I
think
know who
she'd be
she is. I
perfect.
haven't watched it, but I know who she is. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, or oh God, I always forget her name. She was in WandaVision and
Mm.
Mad Men. Oh, she's so good. Tiana Parrish.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, she's awesome. Yeah.
All right. All right. Yes. Mel is saying all this is gorgeous. Also the guy from Last Black Man in San Francisco.
Who is that?
I don't know who that is. Do you know his name, Mel? I don't know who that is.
I'll have to look it up.
Okay. Yes. But yeah, that's going to be great. That's going to be great to see that. Mel also said this sounds wonderful because there's always the question of do you love the person or the idea of the person you have created
Mhm.
after all that time. Yeah, that's true. Having them come back together because everything was so intense. in that moment. 'Cause I know, like, not too long ago, there was a film that came out. I'm not going to mention it, where people where people like met in this situation, and it was like a first or second date or something like that, and it was like really, really intense kind of thing, and they came together, but it was more so like what some people, I guess, would call almost like trauma porn.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
they came together because
I
it's this
know.
traumatic situation, and they come
I
together,
know.
and they're supposedly falling in love, and it's like, but was it really love, or is just you bonded because of this traumatic situation? And
Right.
really, in this book, it could have been that had it not been
Right.
for
Well, yeah, and I didn't
to
want
come back
to,
together.
yeah. I'm not a big fan of trauma porn. And I
Right.
also think that we need gifts. Like, we need escapism. We need to see ourselves happy and loved and being loving and you know, valuing each other. And I also think it's important to just remind everyone that we exist outside of whiteness.
Right.
And so even, you know, black made art that leans on us being oppressed, that's centering whiteness, you
Right.
know? Um so yeah, I don't like to get into that. I want us to have happy endings.
Absolutely. Oh, someone says, okay, Jonathan Majors. Oh, he
I
was
don't
in
know.
gosh, the show that was on HBO that was big that didn't get renewed. I can't think of the name of it right now.
I'm Googling him immediately
It's on
after.
the tip of my tongue. The show that was on HBO. Somebody who you know what it is. It was on HBO, but it Lovecraft Country.
Oh, yes. Oh,
Yeah, the star of that.
he is so fine in like a 70s way. Like he
Mhm.
doesn't even look contemporary. There's just something like, oh, he's so, yeah, I love him. I have to
Right.
remember that name, Jonathan Majors.
Right, absolutely. Yes, and Mel is saying one of the reasons she loves Toni Morrison is that we don't exist for whiteness. And actually, speaking of Toni, I'm going to go back to one of my other questions because Audrey, her name is Audrey, but her name is, I have it, you can tell us because I have it written and I can't find it in my notes.
So Audrey was named for Eva's favorite black female writers. So
Mm.
Audrey is Audrey Lorde, obviously. So her name is Audrey. Oh my God! Now
Audrey Zora, I found it in my note.
okay. Okay.
Zora Tony.
Yes, Audrey, Zora, Toni, Mercy Moore. Yeah.
Right. So,
Yeah, I just wanted to, you know, pay a little homage to the icons of black
absolutely.
writing.
And one of the things that Eva does, the changing her name, and a lot of our icons did that as well. They changed their name
Definitely.
when they decided it's like you become this new person, this different person, and the person
Hmm.
when you start to write, this is who I am, and this is how I represent myself as an author or as a creative. So
Right.
I think that that's pretty neat. We have another question from Abby. Did you see a need in the world that made you decide to write this book?
Um, I think my books always come from the same place of intention, which is just, you know, I want to put our humanity on full blast. Like, I know, and we all know, so many creative, dynamic, dazzling Black people. We don't see them reflected enough in media. And so I like to tell stories like starring the people that I know. I mean, when I first started writing, you know, book publishing, it was very like Black tropish. It's like you're a mammy, you're a mandingo, you're tragic mulatto. You know, there's like these certain places that we had to be one of them. You know, you're like a crack addicted
Hmm.
single mother, your man's running the streets, like, oh God. And there's just so much more to us than that. And so it's important to me to populate my books with characters from all different walks of life. Um, all different places in the country, different childhoods, different, quote unquote classes, all of it. I just like to get try to get the breadth of our experience in a book. So, but other than that, I write to please myself first. I don't really think about if you start thinking about the reader and who's going to receive this, how they're going to receive it, where it fits in terms of, contemporary books, you're screwed, because then you're second guessing every word that you write. So instead, I write like no one's ever going to read it.
Okay.
And that's what works for me. Yeah.
And we love to read it, so that works for us too. But one thing I was thinking about, just as you said, and this comes up in the book, the whole thing of a Black story, and then people want to change it. That's happening even with Eva. She's written a series of books that, at this point in her journey, she doesn't really want to continue.
She's over it.
She's over it, but she has an opportunity, similar to you, to do a film, but they want to change the characters in the film.
Yes. And so this is not something that's ever happened to me, but I have a friend that's a science fiction writer, and it happens all the time, that the powers that be feel that if a character is already other, like if you're dealing in a fantasy setting.
Mm-hmm.
So Eva wrote books, and a series, and the central characters are a vampire and a witch that are in love with each other. And so the director is like, they're already other, so why would we further other them by making them Black? And Eva's like, why is white the default for a species that doesn't even exist?
Right.
Like, it's fantasy anyway. Like, it doesn't, make any sense. But that's the way, that's still the way media is seen. And you see how upset Marvel people get, like, if a character is Black that isn't written Black, things like that.
Right. Instead
or Asian that's supposed to
right.
be, like, no, these are white people, this has to be. It's like that universe doesn't even exist. So what are we fighting about?
And the crazy thing about that is, even in this book, I mean, it starts out in the very first chapter that a lot of her fans are white women. So why would you need to change it? Because the demographics of who's buying the books. But nevertheless.
That's a whole other conversation.
Exactly. That's all. I'm not going to go there. And Abby has a comment. Thanks for being a part of the change instead of what we've seen and heard over the years. Absolutely. She does. I think that's what makes a great writer, writing for themselves first, for others to see what they see. Absolutely. Because, everyone has their own creativity. And I mean, there are things that you can find that are similar when you read a particular author, but then there are also things that you might read that would expand your mind because that person's coming from their own perspective. So yeah, I think that's great. Because there's a line in A Perfect Find that I have never forgotten. I can't remember who the main character was talking to, but it said something to the effect that you are the decider. You make your own decisions.
Yes.
And that line has stuck with me. I always remember that. So thank you, Tia.
Wow, I can't believe you remember that. You are the decider.
I choose.
Right.
Me. I don't let someone else make all the decisions. I'm the decider. So thank you for that, because I've never forgotten that.
Oh my God, I love that. I mean, sometimes we need to be reminded.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. So because we're getting close to time, and I want to make sure to touch on, I have you see this, lots.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. But I do that so I can stay on track, but I like conversation we're doing. So one thing that like with Shane, of course, he knows that he he went through a lot of things. He dealt with substance abuse and all of that, and then he stopped abusing substances. One of the things that I thought was powerful about him is that, you know, he was a troubled youth, and he, in addition to writing, he also had a heart for helping other troubled youth.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought that that was very powerful, that he was someone who had the ability to do that. You know, once again,
Yeah.
you know, either you can follow the path that you went down,
Mm-hmm.
or you can be the person that seeks to change others. Because actually, I know I've mentioned my mom a couple times. She'll never come on here or write comments, but I'm going to mention because
Right.
she said something about that part meant a lot to her, because my mother was an educator, you know, and during her
Okay.
career, and she thought how powerful that was, especially as a Black man, just
Right.
being that type of educator who would help students and try to mentor them and help them in all
Mm-hmm.
these ways, and get them
And
to.
give them what he didn't have.
Absolutely. So I thought that that was great, to see that as a Black male who is committed in that way.
Thank you. Yeah, I wanted to show that and how important it is coming from a Black man to a young Black man. You know, that mentorship is just so invaluable. But then, of course, for Shane, it's like it's a slippery slope, because you have to keep up some boundaries, and he struggled with that.
Right, right.
Sometimes you can replace one addiction for another, and that's the fear when you're in recovery. And
Mm-hmm.
that's why they tell you, you know, first couple of years, like, don't have a relationship, just focus on yourself, because things can go, you know,
Mm-hmm.
haywire.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, of course, they managed to come back together, and they still inspire one another and encourage. You know, after so they got to go through some changes. There's got to be some friction. There's got to be some things to go on. I mean, that's just life. It's
Yes.
it's not like you just don't see somebody for 15 years and you just pick up and everything is gravy.
No.
That's just not realistic. But I do love the way that they were able to come back together and support one another and encourage one another, and all of that. So we do get our happy ending, which
Yes.
love. I love having a happy
Yes.
ending.
Definitely. And they deserve it.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. I'm trying to see. Does anyone who has read the book or just in general have any other questions? I'm going to make sure, as we're coming up on our time. Well, there is. I see something. Oh, Mel. Before this comment, Mel said she thought that George Bush said he was a decider. I don't remember
No,
that.
he did say that.
Oh, okay.
Jenna was co-opting him saying that. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
He was
Okay.
like, I'm the decider.
All right. Tia's asking, have any other talks come up? She wants to have a chance to read. Oh, I'm sorry, we're not coming up in your feed. So yeah, make sure you save it as a favorite so it does come up in your feed.
Yeah.
I have been interviewing authors pretty much every other week.
Oh,
So,
wow.
yes. I tend to read a book a week. I know
Oh,
that's too much for everybody. So I
that's
have been
great.
doing like every other week, especially this summer. I've been doing that
Mm-hmm.
so that we can introduce folks to a lot of other authors. I've been
Oh,
doing
it's
it since like
incredible.
April of all Black women, all Black,
Yes.
all
Oh, I
Black.
love that.
We've had poets, we've had people who've written memoirs, all kinds
Yeah.
of things. So yes, if you're not tuned in, I never take the videos down. So as long as you stay on the Brown Girl Collective page, you can go back and watch some of those others. So I mean, we've had some great folks on here. Tia is a personal favorite, but we've had a lot of other
Oh,
great authors on as well. So let's see. Let me make sure I'm not missing anything. Um, so I know that A Perfect Find is coming out. I think they just wrapped up.
they just wrapped.
They
Yeah.
just wrapped, so that means they have to go into post production at this
Yeah.
point. Okay.
And
So
so they're aiming for spring.
okay.
Yeah.
So we still have to wait a little while before
I
we.
know, it's so hard.
No,
I want to see it.
Yeah, did you get a chance to do any screenwriting or?
So I didn't on The Perfect Find. It was just so overwhelming. You know, the Hollywood stuff is so foreign to me, and writing a screenplay is a totally different skill set from a novel. So I was just like, here's my baby, treat her well, you know, and I'll show up at the premiere. But I visited the set a couple of times, and it's just magical.
All right, and looking forward to it. And it stars Gabrielle Union, but
Hmm.
is it Keith Powers?
Keith Powers is Eric,
Okay.
and he's so cute. And Gina Torres is
Yeah.
Darcy Vale. Lala is her friend Elodie. Like it's good. Yeah. Aisha Hines is Billy. It's gonna be
Oh
fantastic.
yeah. A lot of beautiful black star power. I love it.
Yes. 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 It's so
It's going to
good.
be good. And one thing with it being on Netflix, it gives, even a broader audience. Because I was thinking about this book. Of course, Reese's Book Club did it. So, of course, that
Hmm.
introduced you to a new audience. And then being
Yes,
on
it did.
gives you an even broader audience. So, how exciting for you.
I know. I know. It's truly a dream. I can't believe it's happening.
Yes, so we're excited for you. Just making sure I'm not missing anything. A lot of thanks for a great conversation. Oh,
Oh,
so
you're
Loretta's
welcome.
asking, what are you drinking? Looks yummy and bubbly.
It's yummy and bubbly, but it's Trader Joe's sparkling apple cider. Because, like Eva, I have terrible migraines and I can't ever drink.
Oh,
So
yeah, that's true. That's
this
true.
feels like I'm, it's like a mocktail kind of a situation.
Make you feel like right, because one of the things you mentioned, like the red wine, I'm like, yeah, well, red wine will give you a headache just in general for anyone,
Yes.
really. Too much red
Yeah.
wine. Right, right,
Yeah. I'll end up in the
absolutely.
ER with red wine.
Right. So I know, of course, we're waiting on the film to come out, and you are still promoting 7 days in June because it's really only been out since June. So
June 1st. Yeah.
so it just hit its 2 month mark. Okay, okay. So anything else? Because in your bio, I mentioned that you have some unfinished manuscripts. One thing I know
I
about
do.
authors, a lot of times once you finish one thing, you're already got the next thing on the horizon. So
Yeah, I've already moved on to the next thing. Yeah. So
mhm.
I'm deep into research mode and it's so exciting.
Okay, okay.
I just hope, and I say this at the beginning of every time I write a book, I'm just like, am I going to have the time to finish this? Like, who's going to write this book for me? I feel like
Right, because you still do have a full-time job, right?
I do. Yeah.
Right.
It's a
So
lot, but I barely sleep, so I work it out.
Okay, okay. So, when do you do your writing? I know Toni Morrison would get up early in the morning to write. What about you? I know you said that you wake up with, dealing with your migraines. So, what time of day do you generally find that you're able to write?
Yeah, I wish I could do Toni Morrison mornings because that would be perfect. Then you're done and you have the rest of the day. But I can't in the morning. So I usually a writing day will be that I start once my daughter goes to bed and then I just write as long as I can because it's hard for me to have an actual schedule because I never know how my head is going to behave. So if I have a good day, I write until I fall asleep because I'm not sure when I'm going to feel good enough again. And which is not a healthy schedule and I do not recommend whatsoever. But it works for me. And then also like when I'm in writing mode, I write all weekend with a few breaks. Yeah. You have to be really dedicated and disciplined because there's always something more fun to do than to write.
Right. And one of the things that, because I've been doing this for a while, I know that not very many authors are full-time authors.
No, how could
They
you
have a
afford
day,
it?
they have a day job, or, they teach, they're doing something else. So yes, you definitely have to be able to figure that thing out. So for all you budding writers out there, and actually I would consider myself one, or just a creative in general,
Yay!
you have to figure that out because that's one of the things that I sometimes struggle with. Like, okay, so when am I going to do this? but I still have a full-time job. And how am I going to squeeze this in? And,
It's
so,
so hard.
but, anything worth doing is worth, making the adjustments and the sacrifices to make it
Absolutely.
happen. So you just have to
I believe
figure it
that's true.
out, right on your lunch break for 15 minutes every day,
Yeah.
whatever it is, or, create or draw or whatever it is that you do.
Mm-hmm.
So Paula's saying she loves your energy.
Oh, thank you, Paula.
And Abby says she loves to research. It's awesome that you're on to the next. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Because one thing, when you are a creative person, you always have all kinds of things spiraling.
Yeah.
Always.
My mom is very like, you just don't want to sit down for a minute. Like, it just, take it all in and relax. And I can't. I have to keep writing.
Absolutely, absolutely. So we thank you so much for coming on. And yes, Mel, to answer your question, there is a virtual book club. We generally started out where we do one book a month, usually the first Monday of the month. So this fits into that. So this is like the quote unquote book of the month, 7 days in June. But lately I have also been doing additional books as well. So in 2 weeks, just to show you all what's coming, in 2 weeks I'll be interviewing Latanya McQueen, author of When
Mm.
the Reckoning Comes. This book actually, I believe, it's not released until tomorrow. So yes, I get stuff early sometimes.
Oh, you got the galley.
Yes, I got the galley. This is another book we'll be doing on the 30th, and I don't want to say the ladies. Minguni, forgive me, sis, if I'm
Oh,
saying it wrong. Looking for Hope. This one has already been out for a while, but it's got like all 5-star reviews. I met this young lady at an event here in Atlanta, a book event. So she'll be coming up on the 30th. And
wow.
then next month, now this one y'all might not have time to read the whole thing. I need to get started because it's really, really, you see how thick this is?
Whoa.
And this is Honore Pano Jeffers, The Love Songs of W.E.B. Du Bois. It doesn't come out until August 24th because they pushed the date back. But we
That
will
is a
be talking,
beautiful cover.
yes, we will be talking to her on September the 9th. So once again, might not get to finish reading it that quickly.
Maybe that's October's book.
Right. I'm gonna start hecka early, but her folks are like, "Well, have her come on," because to get people interested. So I'm like, "Okay, we'll go ahead and do it."
Yeah.
Yeah. So those are the next three that are coming up. So, and then between now and the end of the year, we'll pretty much be meeting every couple of weeks. So there'll be
Awesome.
a lot of wonderful Black women authors coming on, of which Tia Williams, you are one of them. And I thank you. I'm not going to be. I said I wasn't going to be a fangirl,
That's okay.
but I am a fangirl. So I'm looking forward to seeing more of your work. Looking forward to the film next spring, and the TV show whenever that's developed and comes out.
Yes.
And the TV show will be about 7 days in June, and then
Hmm.
whatever else you have coming up. So
Well, thank you so much for having me. It was fantastic chatting with you. And if I'm ever in Atlanta,
yes.
we must have coffee.
We must have coffee. Absolutely. So, everyone, I want to thank you for your time and being here with us this evening. Thank you for your participation, chiming in, asking some questions, giving us some funny comments, all of that good stuff. We appreciate because the participation makes it that much better. So, thank you, Tia. Thank you to everyone. You all have a great evening, and we'll talk again in a couple of weeks.
Great.
All right. Bye.
Bye.